as Dr. BB on the socials. I don't know how you're feeling about this, but before we step into this conversation, we just actually asked you guys to send through some of the songs that you would like us to play for you. That's going to come a little bit later on. We see you, Tselimpilo. We are definitely going to play your beautiful track just on the other side of 5 o'clock. But right now, I would like to welcome Dr. Boitumelo Petla, who is a medical doctor with a keen interest in mental health, women's health, and tackling obesity. She's also an entrepreneur, a qualified business coach. I like people that are in business, specializing in strategic performance management and mentoring and coaching. Also the founder of Heaven on Earth Hierarchy and Peak Performance Models. Good afternoon, Doc, and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Hello to you.
Yes, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. And I mean, those of you who obviously are just listening on the road, if you are perhaps just coming back from work and heading home, you have no idea what is happening in studio right now. I'm just going to try and give you a bit of a picture. The good doctor has pitched up with a team, I tell you. People who are there. What's again? Camera, who busy? What's again? Ayanda is definitely going to be on the socials today. I'm glad that you came, Dr. Boitumelo, because we always have a bit of a tiff, my co-host and I. She doesn't want to be there in the picture. And look how beautiful she is. She's just like gorgeous. So a warm welcome to you, Doc, for taking time out just to be with us this afternoon. Let's kickstart with this. Heaven on Earth Podium. What is it all about? What led to the birthing thereof?
Heaven on Earth Podium is a concept that evolved from my experience from losing my grandfather. I lost him in 2011, and just before he passed on, I was going through a phase myself where I was very busy with my life. I just registered for my MBA. I was running my practice and my husband's practice at the time. I had just had a second baby. I was doing community outreaches at high schools, and I was very frustrated because I was interested in doing all of these things, but I couldn't understand why do I have so many interests, and yet I'm capable to also deliver on them. And then part of that, the solution for me at the time was suddenly I realized there's my grandfather, somebody that I lived with all my life, but I never noticed him much. So my grandfather was a successful serial entrepreneur from Jane Fez, Limpopo. So you just grow up with somebody like that without understanding the immense success that somebody like that had at the time. And you think it's a normal thing, it's a normal day to day, because for you that's what you saw.
Yeah.
And as you grow up, you notice there's something different about this man. And there was a suddenly type of moment where I realized that, okay, maybe I took this from my grandfather because he was doing so many things and he was blessed because God favored him with success. So I realized that, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. So from there, I started looking at him much closer. I started trying to understand, okay, who is this man? What drives this man? Okay, what he's done is actually different, is unique, is not something standard. So what drives a man like that to get to where he got to? And he was blessed with long life. Unfortunately, I only had maybe a year to get to know him closer as a different person, not just as my grandfather. So he passed on, and one of the memories I hold close was that just before he passed on, I was there a few days, and I kind of got him a special Bible that was in Spady. We were on a trip. They told me he's admitted. He was 92, 93, I think somewhere around there.
Yeah.
We rushed back, got to Polokwane from PE, got him a Spady Bible. Then I read him his favorite verses that anchored him. So Psalm 23, Psalm 27,
wow,
Psalm 91. Those were his main anchoring verses. And so I read those for him. And then as I was reading specifically Psalm 23, he was rested, he was calm, and he took a little nap, and I got to cut his nail. So those are little things that, you know, in life you take for granted because you think they're always going to be there. It's just normal. Like, it's just until you realize that, okay, somebody's not going to be here forever, or they're gone. Then it's a suddenly like, oh my God, I have to adjust. I always thought they'll be here.
Yeah.
And a few days later, he passed on. And from there, I was troubled because for me at the time, it was the first time that I actually lost someone that I was close to.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to ponder on the idea of death. And I was asking God, why do we live just to die? Why are we born just to die? And as part of my reflection and me writing about my grandfather, and which later I published a book inspired by his life, the revelation was, you're not just born to die.
Yes.
You are born to create, experience, leave a mark, and go.
Sure.
Depending what you did with your time, that's what people will remember or not remember.
So
nothing is futile, but we have an opportunity between birth and death to decide how this experience is going to be on this earth. So the heaven on earth specifically was that he suddenly made me realize that, you know what, heaven can be something that you experience right here on earth. You don't have to wait to die for you to figure out if you're going to go to hell or to heaven, because God promises in Psalm 27 you will live to see heaven on this very earth.
Absolutely.
So when you are in tune, in line with the word of God, and you actually practice it, not just know the lines, but you are not in tune with the word. When you're actually in tune with the word, you'll experience the nature of God, and you will live the nature of God, and he will show in your life in every way, because I noticed my grandfather was blessed in every way. So that's why heaven on earth.
Absolutely beautiful. I love the way you just relay a story. My eyes are just, dilating moment by moment as you're just giving us a blow by blow of your experience with your grandfather. I don't believe that it's a coincidence. I believe it's a God incidence that one of your grandfather's favorite verses was Psalm 27. And today it's our foundational scripture. So I'm just going to read it. Psalm 27 verse 1 says, "Unless the Lord builds the house, its builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord protects the city, its watchmen stand guard in vain."
Absolutely.
That for me, it wraps up a lot, because when you're in business, when you're stepping into the marketplace as a kingdom child, there's a lot of things that we often have to unlearn before we can learn the kingdom patterns.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that you had to sort of shift your mind towards and unlearn the patterns of this world, the secular practices, the chasing of profit margins, the chasing of what's the next gig, what's the next success, but rather to be anchored in Christ, who is the hope of all glory, knowing and fully understanding your calling and your gifting, and knowing that it will make room for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I must say I've been very blessed, because my grandparents set the tone for us in terms of God is everything. So from growing up, my grandmother would read the Bible for us. Then my grandfather would play the piano for us, some gospel song. He loved Julia Lenna in Spade, Stay With Me. And then my own parents, because I grew up with my grandparents until I was 5 years old. Then I moved in with my own parents from that time. So fortunately for me, my own parents also, they are, God-grounded type of people. And specifically my father. My father is a very good storyteller.
Just like you, I can imagine. That's probably where you got it from.
Yeah. So he always tells stories. And growing up, I spent a lot of time with my father. He took me everywhere. And he always relate a story. And he always wanted to show me what God did in that situation. He said, this could have happened, but look what God did. So my father is that type of person that always sees what God has done in every situation. And he used to tell me all the time that never tell me what you can't do. Always say what you want, because it will happen. And then, for example, I would say, the one day I never forget this day, I said to him, I'm feeling cold. He said, okay. And then after 5 minutes, Papa, I'm feeling cold. He's like, okay, I heard you the first time. What, did you have something? But I'm like, why are you not closing the window? We're in the car. He said, you didn't say you're feeling cold. Can I please close the window? You told me you're feeling cold.
So you told me the problem.
Yeah. So he's always saying, say what you want. Speak it out there. So to be honest, I never had to change my mindset on anything. My grandfather proved that God can do anything. You remain in the principles, and as much as, you know, like mainstream people discourage that, I mean, you're too religious, which some is the case sometimes, that you become too religious, that you even miss God in the practical things. And you are frustrated sometimes, and people tell you the only way that this will work, you have to do 1, 2, 3. But when you know, if you have, let's say in my case, I was fortunate because I grew up around people who said God is everything.
Sure.
God will provide. God will do what he wants to do. My grandfather used to say, he used to hate, I think hate is the right word, laziness. Sleeping late into the morning, he hated.
Yeah, let's just get go tlhabela o sa le ka mo dikobong.
Yeah, everybody who knew my grandfather knew that was his line. He used to say the reason for that is because God himself despises laziness. Because once you're lazy, you don't produce.
Absolutely.
And then once you don't produce, you start hating and envying others. Then you develop hatred. And you start developing negative emotions because now you wish to have what somebody else has worked for.
Sure.
At his end over time.
Listen, Dr. Boitumelo, we could go on, but I just want to rope in our listeners at this point. We are with Dr. Boitumelo Phetla right here speaking to us about Heaven on Earth Podium, which was launched just a couple of months ago, and really the birthing of it all, taking us through the inspiration that she had from her family and from her upbringing to make her the avid entrepreneur that she is. Do send us a WhatsApp on 082-657-2729. So, Ayanda, I actually want to rope you into this a little bit. You said something very interesting, Dr. Boitumelo. You said your grandfather was a serial entrepreneur. And for me, then it makes sense why she wears so many hats, but with such grace. She's a doctor, medical doctor. She's an entrepreneur. She's a coach. I mean,
all of it.
Hey?
You know, and here's the big thing for me. It's amazing how power is always contained in grace, you know, because I'm listening to Doc and I'm just seeing her demeanor, so graceful,
very graceful,
and yet so powerful. There's just such a containment there. And talking about containment, my family, we're just going to take a quick break, just so you can go and grab yourself a cup of coffee or, I don't know, warm water. Be like Masechaba, drink only water. And when we come back, Dr. BB, as you know her on the socials, is right here in studio. It's excuse me. And right now, it's conversation together with Dr. Boitumelo Phetla, who's right here. So, Doc, let's talk about the nickname. Where did BB come from?
I actually got the nickname from my team at work because I work with my husband, so we're both medical doctors.
Yeah.
So they had to differentiate which Dr. Phetla you're referring to. So basically, it's my initials.
Already.
Yeah, it's my.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And listen, so what is your specialty as a medical doctor?
I'm a general practitioner, and I have special interests. So it's not a specialist, but special interest.
Sure, area.
And yes, in women's health, mental health, and obesity.
So where are we at right now? So first of all, before I even ask that question, I don't want to sound like I'm asking generally. So here's my observation, just generally, that, you know, with women empowerment and opportunities opening up, you know, and a whole thrust, you know, just pushing women into the center stage, we're starting to see, you know, physiological reaction to that, you know, there's all sorts of sicknesses and struggles mentally and all of that. So as a doctor, what have you observed in terms of how we are taking care of ourselves, but more than that, how we are responding to the pressure of being called to the center stage?
I think this has affected everybody under general. It's just that as women, we tend to find it easier to find help because if we look at the stats globally, we are all struggling with mental health, obesity, diabetes. So, yes. So the consequences. I will. So it's a global phenomenon that we're basically, because the world is always evolving and there are always dynamics. And let's say South Africa specifically, we're coming from apartheid, even though it's 28 years later, the effect will still be felt for the next minimum three generations because We know in terms of biology, the genes and the impact of trauma that was experienced is always minimum 3 generations. So we are still going to experience the pressure of going into a new world that our forefathers have never experienced, where suddenly there's opportunities, suddenly there's money, suddenly there's this and that, and you have to adapt to that and not let that move you around or make you do things just because you can afford. Because that tends to be a pressure point where there's so much peer pressure and proving a point and proving to people that you are making it. So we end up making wrong decisions under general because we want people to know that we are successful now.
Sure, Doc. That is incredible. I hope somebody really got that. Just because you can do it, it does not mean that you must do it. I think that's the message.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Doc, one of the greatest struggles with regards to just our time, our generation, is always the struggle between personal interest and taking advantage of opportunities that are going to bring the bacon home, opportunities that are going to secure your future. As a performance specialist, how would you advise somebody that is stuck between the two? They are really making, a decent living, but how do I say it? Is it cool? There's something not happening because they're not fulfilling their interests.
Let me make sure I understand what you're asking. So, are you asking that somebody's making a decent living, but they want more?
No, they are in a job that that secures their daily living.
Yes.
But actually, there's no passion because they're not doing something that they're called to do.
Oh.
For example, somebody like yourself, you present with multiple talents, and you are excelling in them all. Somebody could be having the same problem, but they're stuck in this one stream.
Yeah.
You don't know how to jump to the rest of the streams that they could be doing in their lives.
That also is a temptation that affects everybody.
Oh, wow.
You don't have to do everything. I mean, I'm a good cook. But for me, under my circumstances, I wouldn't go into cooking when medicine is taking care of me.
Yeah, we're not going to find you body stop fella.
No. So I usually tell my kids this way, which is a dilemma under general now for the upcoming parents that are more professionals, that they're doing well. There's this I don't know if it's confusion or just a situation that everybody's confused about, to say, do let your child just choose what they want, let them go with the flow, let them be, which unfortunately, according to how God created the world, you can't really do that.
Sure.
So it's either you influence your child or somebody else will anyway. So parents shouldn't feel bad about guiding their kids, because talking for myself, my father guided me to do medicine. I didn't have interest, and kids tend to not have interest. And then now suddenly we're forced to say, allow your child to choose. But God says you have to guide your children because they're under your care until a certain age. At that age, they have to go out into the world. The question is, how have you influenced them? How have you empowered them? Will they cope? So sometimes the idea of passion causes a lot of confusion because we are so passionate and we don't succeed. You cannot be, passion does not come before purpose. So as a child, your purpose is to perform in class. You actually have to perform in class, and your conduct must be consistent at school, at the play area, at home. Conduct yourself well as a child, because that is your job as a child. So now kids now can say, no, I don't want this, I don't want. And parents, we actually entertain that, and you don't understand. You are raising people that are going to be leaders or are going to be breakers into the future, because you have trained them that they are the kings and queens as kids as they are. So now you haven't taught this child much in terms of restraint, in terms of this time for everything. Now this is your responsibility, this is my responsibility. They get into the world, they don't know how to cope. So that's why the average young adult cannot cope. Mental health is also high there, because they get to the real world and the real world doesn't have time to listen to their pettiness, because they were not prepared for this. So let's say you're an adult. Now it's a matter of, okay, do I follow my passion? Am I stuck in this? And that is also something that you have to differentiate, that for where you are with the responsibilities that you have. Do you follow passion or you focus on responsibilities?
Sure, Doc. let me tell you, that's exactly where we're going to leave it. Haylet on the WhatsApp line says, what an amazing guest, Dr. BB. So inspiring. I absolutely agree, Haylet. And Doc, for the many, many people that have just tuned in that would like to follow you, where do we find you? Where do we follow you? Where do we bug you? Where do we come for more inspiration and wisdom?
I'm basically on all the platforms. I believe Instagram. If you just type Dr. BB, on average you'll find me. Heaven on Earth, Podium Dr. BB _ Dr. BB. YouTube, there's a YouTube channel, Heaven on Earth with Dr. BB.
Sure.
LinkedIn, I'm there as Heaven on Earth with Dr. BB. So Dr. BB is the keyword.
Okay.
And email address admin at drbbspeaks.co.za.
Fantastic. Any events, Doc, that we can follow you to? Are you speaking somewhere where we can join in?
Yes, the next event, on average, 2 times a month, I'm on Instagram doing interviews with speakers, talking different topics, relevant topics. November specifically, I'm speaking with Mr. Charlie Peterson. He has an event around fatherhood. So for the first time, he's invited a woman to join in, because women have to be part of talking about fatherhood.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Listen, we have to leave it here. Masechaba standing by in the news with my family at 2 after 5. We're crossing over now to the latest in the news. It's Radio Pulpit. It is Spectrum. Dr. BB creating inspiring conversations on a Friday afternoon. Let's cross over to here. Team Eskom.